And gentlemen, welcome to all of you. Welcome our reporters and journalists. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about our 9-month results and the results for the third quarter 2019. I want to welcome all of you on behalf of Lotos. I have the honor of introducing the hosts of our meeting. Mateusz Bonca, the President of the Board. Welcome, Mr. President. Vice President of our Group for Production and Marketing, Jarosław Kawula. And I want to welcome Wojciech Zenkteler from the Office on Investor Relations. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and I am Director for Communications at Lotos. I'm going to give it over to our President. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure of welcoming you one more time on this very sunny day. Warsaw welcomed our group in this favorable way. Traditionally, we have a well-structured presentation that is here to show you what has been happening, especially in the past 9 months of this year. We want to bring you through the macroeconomic situation that we operated in, and then at the end we are going to conclude by presenting you our consolidated results. Let me start off with page 4 of our document. The first 9 months and the last quarter of it was a good time for our group. It showed that we are a stable concern that stands on very strong feet. The 9-month LIFO EBITDA, as we reported, it was very stable compared to 9 months of 2018, reached the point of 2.3 billion. The quarterly EBITDA reached 856 million, which was a 9% increase compared to last year. We paid out 555 million in dividend, giving it 5 PLN per share result. We were able to progress on the EFRA project, on the DCU part of the project. We started extracting hydrocarbons at Utgard faster ahead of schedule. We were able to overhaul the Petro-Baltic oil rig. It has already been transferred over to the B8 field. The financial situation of the group is improving, so we were able to refinance our 10+ investment, which makes us more flexible for the future, and on the other hand, makes us immune to some bubbles of 2021 that might come next year, which gives us a very strong foothold. Some of the figures for the past 9 months are presented on the screen. We are confirming the business stability of our plans. The segment for extraction and marketing and depend on the market situation. Those two sides are making our cash flows safe. After 9 months, we have seen a record high production of oil, very sound operational cash flow. When you look at the LIFO EBITDA, you can see that our operations are based on factual currency. The daily extraction of hydrocarbons is suffering a slight downward trend, but we are launching new projects that will improve the situation, making these figures higher. The third quarter of 2019 was very good to us. It featured an interplay between production and extraction and marketing sides, which complemented each other. Our debt was very stable. What you see here is the leasing liability impact that had to do with the change of accounts and the daily extraction of hydrocarbons, which is on a slight decline, but very steady. Let's look at the macroeconomic situation on the market. Let's compare our strategic planning with actual delivery. The price of crude was, according to schedule. Natural gas suffered from many fluctuations, which has an impact on our functioning. We're going to talk about that later on. It had a positive impact on operational costs of the refinery. Product cracks is a place where we see good results in heavy fuel oil that are divorced from our previous plans. What does the economy look like? The currency exchange for the US dollar is on the rise. The GDP is showing a slower dynamic, but it is still very safe. It allows our business to grow. The consumption of diesel oil and petroleum is on the rise, so the demand on our core products is higher and growing. Diesel oil and natural gas, like I said before, are noting a significant increase in the previous period. When you look at the product cracks, you see an intersection and a rebound to the relationship between the prices of diesel oil and the gasoline that we have seen before. At some point, it reached this lack of stability, but now it's rebounding, and the fuel oil is on the rebound, and the price is growing. We hope that in line with the IMO regulations, the key product cracks are going to be favorable to us. And now I'd like to turn it over to our next speaker, who is going to bring us through the other sectors, and then we will move on to the financial results. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at the exploration and mining sector. Traditionally, we are showing you the production figures and reserves in our deposits. Now, a significant piece of information is that our Odgard deposit project was finished ahead of schedule and under budget. On the 16th of September 2019, the operator Equinor began utilizing the deposits. The figures that you see here are average for the third quarter. Considering the fact that the launch was at the end of the quarter, we have to understand that the figures are much lower than the actual daily production figures, which today come to about 9,000 barrels of equivalent of oil a day. And here I'd like to underscore that we shouldn't grow too attached to this figure, because it is a natural effect of that happens when the extraction begins. So we know that the levels are going to drop down to the plateau level quite fast. That level is close to about 4,000 barrels a day. The second piece of information that you can glean from the slide that you might note is the B8 platform production. 3 months ago, we talked about a downtime coming our way, so the production at that facility has been lower than normally it would be over the course of 3 months. To summarize the extraction figures in the third quarter of 2019, extraction was increased compared to the third quarter of 2018. It fell slightly compared to the second quarter of 2019. It was owing to new production launched at the end of this quarter. Older deposits suffer from depletion and are decreasing their production figures. When it comes to the structure of extracted hydrocarbons, we saw the past situation, the past pricing of both natural gas and oil. Our Norwegian assets are mainly producing natural gas, and the Utgard, our new facility, is producing 50% oil and 50% natural gas. So from the point of view of the macroeconomic trends that we have been seeing, this deposit can be seen in a highly positive light. Let's move on to another slide, which shows our reserves. These changes that you see on the screen have to do with from the figures of produced oil, so there's no new information presented here. Let's look at the operational results. 9 months of 2019 noted a significant increase when it comes to operational figures, which come from the lower pricing of natural gas and of oil. We fell from 45 to 19 US dollars. In this decrease happened in September. It was a 60% decrease year to year. That doesn't really happen often with regard to natural gas, and it translated into our results. EBITDA fell over the course of 9 months by 37%, which underscores the macroeconomic influence on our operations. The third quarter this year compared to the third quarter of last year, results are lower by 90%. The primary factor here is the macroeconomic one. It translated into a dramatic fall of the pricing of natural gas. When we look at the Baltic Sea area, we need to underscore two pieces of information. First of all, the Petro Baltic oil rig was overhauled and transported over to the B8 facility where it will be utilized. You can find more information on that on the commentary of the management board on how the production there will be initiated and continued. The second piece of information that is very significant here is something that we already announced, namely the purchase of a new oil rig, Maersk Giant, which was moved successfully from Denmark to Gdańsk. It is now being modified so that the platform can reconstruct the B3 deposit and increase the production from that place next year. Let's move on to production and marketing. If we were to focus on sales figures, we would see record high levels of sales in the third quarter of 2019, higher than the third quarter of 2018. Those readers who want to go more in depth will understand that the figures are justified compared year to year. The difference has to do with the import side of diesel oil. The Polish market suffers a deficit in that regard, so these operations are financially justified. Our intention is to replace imported oil by oil produced at our Gdańsk facility, which is now overhauled part of the EFRA project. Let's look at the operational results over the past 9 months. We noted a 14% increase. What factors contributed to this significant growth? First of all, the very sound model margin. Second of all, high rating of American dollar compared to Polish zloty. Good foreign exchange rate. The 100 million has to do with the trend-based LIFO effects.
W przypadku samego trzeciego kwartału efekt LIFO to jest 121 milionów złotych. Łącznie oczyszczona EBITDA LIFO za trzeci kwartał dla segmentu rafineryjnego i sprzedaży 784 miliony, czyli zdecydowana większość wyniku skonsolidowanego, tak jak pokazywaliśmy wcześniej, wynik w segmencie upstream jest w tym trzecim kwartale stosunkowo gorszy niż rok temu. I tutaj to, o czym pan prezes przed chwilą mówił, można zaobserwować częściowo taki naturalny hedging, naturalne kompensowanie się wyników, dlatego że wydobycie gazu w naszych aktywach produkujących mniej więcej co do ilości porównywalne jest ze zużyciem gazu ziemnego w rafinerii w Gdańsku.
It is comparable to refinery in Gdańsk. So the portion of lower result is translating to lower costs of refining activity. So this is the thing which was mentioned by Mr. President. We are a very stable company, and the diversification of the risk aim is reached. So this is very good when the market is changing very dynamically. When it comes to refining marketing, there is also the model refining margin. You can see it on the slide. Last time it was very good, more than $8 per barrel. On average for 9 months it was quite stable, a bit lower than the previous year. But here I would like to emphasize that we stopped publishing model refining margin because in Q3 2019 we started up the EFRA project, so it's the coking unit. At the end of September, it was fulfilled with needed equipment. So that is why the model refining margin doesn't present profitability of Lotos Group correctly. That is why we decided not to publish daily model margin, but transparently communicate with the market and analyticians.
Na osiągane wyniki finansowe podjęliśmy decyzję o tym, że będziemy publikować miesięczną
we decided to publish monthly structure of processing the commodities. We did it in the reports, but to be more transparent, to show the impact of EFRA for margin and treating our interessaries seriously, we won't show you the model margin in the way which we did in the past, but after carrying out the tests on the project, we will have an idea of publishing model margin in a new formula. That's everything. When it comes to this field, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Zenkteler, who will tell you about the financial results. Thank you very much. Consolidated financial results. shows you what has been already said by Mr. Kawula. Here there are some points which I want to draw your attention to. The net profit is lower in 2019. It's quite natural for companies like us, where much reserves impact negatively the financial results. As you can see on the left-hand side, the operating result is lower than the previous year. We prepare such a decomposition to show you what our situation is. As you can see, the situation is quite flat. It's 22.1 to 22.49. It's the net profit is because of that lower. On the at the bottom you can see the factors which impact this situation. This is these are the factors which are presented in reports, and they translate to our actual results. The 3 months perspective is quite similar. As you can see, the operating profit is quite low. As Mr. President Bonsa mentioned, we are in the situation where the differences of foreign exchange bear our costs. So that is why the net profit is lower. You can also see that the operating profit is impacted like that. Of course, we want to be safe from such a situation. That's everything when it comes to our profit and loss balance. Here you can have a better look on our direction in the future. On the green line you can see the operating cash flows, which are fluctuating in the different periods. When you sum up the last 3 points, you can see a level of 2 billion zlotys. It's year-over-year result. It was also mentioned by President Bonsa. The fact that we are stable is also seen in our financial results. Thanks to it, we can be stable and use the cash which is in the reserve. And our liabilities, our debt, in terms of our balance, the foreign exchange rate is increasing, so that is why it impacted our net. It's denominated in the US dollar. That is why the level of our liabilities is higher than respectively last period. You can see also the impact of accounting standards, but actually it doesn't mean that we have a bigger debt. It means that some things are presented in a different way, so we don't need to bother. Actually, that's everything what we wanted to say about finances. I give the floor to Director Mr. Kasprzyk. Thank you very much. Are there any questions, ladies and gentlemen?
Zapraszamy panów redaktorów do zadawania pytań. Pan redaktor Kublik, proszę bardzo, Gazeta Wyborcza.
Dziękuję za prezentację.
Proszę Państwa, chciałem się dowiedzieć, czy w trzecim kwartale tego roku dostali Państwo jakiekolwiek odszkodowanie od rosyjskich kontrahentów za zanieczyszczoną ropę naftową, nawet z tytułu niedostarczenia w pełni ropy naftowej, prawda, w zamówionych ilościach w kwietniu i w maju.
In April and May,
Jak w ogóle czy Państwo na przykład przeszacowali też swoje zasoby ropy, te, które są
wanted
jeszcze
to buy some
zawierają
crude oil,
nadmierne
and did you estimated
zanieczyszczenia?
your
Jeżeli tak, to właśnie
contaminated
jakie to były
crude
przeceny?
oil?
Przeszacowania, bo to właśnie.
What were the
Jak w ogóle Państwo to
estimations?
traktują tę ropę, która znajduje się już na terenie
How do
Polski,
you
sprowadzona
treat this
przez
crude
LOTOS,
oil, which was
kupiona przez
already
LOTOS, prawda,
transported
i zanieczyszczona, czy to ją Państwo traktują
to
jako ropę
Poland?
naftową,
Do
czy
you treat it
jako
as
coś
a
innego?
crude oil or something else?
Dziękuję bardzo, panie redaktorze.
Thank you for that question.
Odpowiadając na pierwsze pytanie,
To answer it,
chciałbym
I'll try to answer the first question.
powiedzieć, że nie,
First, my answer
nie
is
otrzymaliśmy
no.
żadnego dotychczas odszkodowania
We
za
haven't received
zanieczyszczoną ropę.
any of the funds as damages for the contaminated oil.
Cały czas jesteśmy w statusie, który, no, można powiedzieć,
The whole
wynika
time
z
we've been in
lokalizacji
a
rafinerii w
situation
Gdańsku.
that
Znaczy,
is closely
te
tied to the refining
ładunek
process
ropy
at
zanieczyszczonej
Gdańsk.
chlorkami organicznymi, on
The
wpłynął do Polski
oil contaminated by
rurociągiem Przyjaźń, jest
chlorides
przechowywany
is
w
now
magazynach
stored in
przedsiębiorstwa
warehouses of Pern.
w Polsce, powiedzmy, wschodniej i środkowej. Do Gdańska dociera ropa,
The oil
która
that reaches
zawiera
Gdańsk
chlorki organiczne na poziomie
contains
zgodnym
organic
z
chlorides that meet the norm
I w tym
as
stanie
far as their
jesteśmy już
concentration
parę
goes.
miesięcy, to znaczy przerabiamy
We've been in
ropę
this situation
naftową,
for a couple of months. We keep
podwyższonej,
processing
czy właściwie
the
powoli, bardzo
oil
powoli zużywamy tę ropę
that we
zanieczyszczoną
have.
chlorkami
We are
organicznymi,
slightly,
rozcieńczając ją
slowly
ropą
using
właściwej
up the
jakości,
contaminated oil,
bezpiecznych
complementing
poziomów,
it
przerabiamy
with
ją
good
na
quality
w związku
oil,
z
and
tym,
it is being
że
refined in our
w
refineries.
pewnym okresie czasu, który jest skończony, zakładamy, że w
In some
całości
limited
ta
period of
ropa
time, we
zostanie
know
przez
that the
rafinerię w Gdańsku
entirety
przerobiona,
of this contaminated oil will be
zamieniona w
processed at
produkt
our
produktowy.
refinery and will be
My nie
made
uznajemy
into
za
ready-made
zasadne,
products.
żeby w
So
jakiś
we don't
sposób
feel that it is
opisywać
justified
wartość
to
tej ropy,
try to describe the value of this oil or try to
To, co
lower
jest
its
istotne z punktu widzenia
valuation.
przedsiębiorstwa, to
What is
koszty
significant from the
związane
viewpoint
z
of our
tym
concern
długotrwałym
is
przerobem
that the
ropy
long-term
zanieczyszczonej, które
processing of
częściowo
contaminated oil
już
costs
się pojawiły, częściowo
that have
zakładamy, że
already
się pojawią
appeared
jeszcze w
and that
przyszłości.
will probably
W
continue in
związku
the
z tym,
future are well presented.
my akumulujemy na powiedzmy dedykowanym rachunku w ramach
We have a
rachunkowości
dedicated
zarządczej,
account
te dodatkowe koszty i zamierzamy wystąpić
and we are noting all of these costs down, and we want to
o rekompensatę
approach the
odszkodowania
Russian side
tytułu
for the
nadmiernych
damages to be covered for these extra expenditures that we have incurred once we know how high they will have been at the end of the whole process.
Jesteśmy, można powiedzieć, w statusie
Right now, we are in the stage of estimating these costs, including the logistical
sytuacja jest
costs.
stabilna.
So the situation is very stable,
Odpowiadając na pierwsze
but
pytanie,
to answer your first question, I need to say that so far we have not gotten any remuneration as damages for the fact that we were delivered oil that was contaminated or not delivered at all.
Proszę, panie redaktorze.
Thank you for that. Let's take another question. Tomasz Jufik, Fact Business. Your strategy includes that your EBITDA LIFO will reach about 4 billion zloty between 2019 and 2022. How far are you going to be from that result in 2019? I think you will not be able to get to 1.8 in the fourth quarter. And if so, can we actually count on getting to that 4 billion level next year? Thank you for that question. Our group is proceeding to meet very ambitious goals, and looking at the past, I can say the following. We divided our strategy to two segments in 2017-18 and 2019-22, and we delivered on the first part of the promise. We are now at the point of 3 billion value of EBITDA, and we are initiating processes that are going to improve our profitability. Normally, we don't comment on our short-term forecasts, but I really have a lot of hope when it comes to midterm results coming in the second part of the strategic period. The question was actually about how much EFRA is going to help you in the fourth quarter. We cannot be more precise as of today. We talk about the situation in our management board meetings. EFRA, in its first stage, assumed the $2 per barrel margin. We are now about to face, at the beginning of 2020, new regulations coming into place. The market is going to be shaken out of its balance point because of that. It has already started. We are looking at different forecasts coming from different entities that provide analyses, and these analyses are not without discrepancies. Some are in line with our plans. The changes are going to happen, but their duration and depth varies from analysis to analysis. We can say one thing for sure. We are going to reach the point of balance again. I think that the impact of EFRA is going to be at the level of $2 to $4 per barrel. I think that the first quarter of 2020 is going to show the actual behavior of the product cracks and therefore the pricing of our products, and how quickly and to what extent the market is going to adjust to these changes. I think I cannot be any more precise than I have been. This is the only thing I can say based on the information that we have. Thank you for that. Let's take one more question. Good morning, Piotr Sępiński, Business PL. My question is, do you uphold your announcement that the EFRA results will be included in the fourth quarter, or do you think that they might be delayed? As of now, as our president has just said, EFRA is in a stable situation. The hydrocarbons have been introduced and the situation looks stable. So we do uphold the message that we gave out before on the effects in the fourth quarter, rather. We can expect that within the next couple of months, the installation is going to be more stable. Speaking about EFRA, when do you expect this installation to be working at full capacity? Is it going to take place in November or December? Because when you talk about the fourth quarter, you're being slightly vague. You are like a free electron when you give your answer. And another question is, the biggest contract for supply of oil is with Rosneft. Have you changed your accounting or reporting in that contract, or, for example, shifting over from dollar value to euros? Let me address your EFRON question first. Your question is very similar to the question that we heard just a moment ago. At the end of the quarter that we are reporting, we introduced hydrocarbons, so the installation is now in its launching phase. Therefore, we are unable to provide you a very definitive and exact date regarding the fourth quarter, at which point this installation is going to reach its full capacity. It is now getting stable and starts to deliver results for our whole group. To be as transparent in this process as possible, we decided to announce our monthly results so that you can have a sense of being informed. So we will inform you when it comes to October and then November, delivering precise information to you as quickly as possible. The information will include on the progress of that process and its impact on our economic situation. We do keep up our goal to stabilize the installation in Q4. I think this is as precise as I can get to try to address your question. When it comes to the second question that you asked, allow me to say that we will not publicly talk about bilateral contracts. At some point in the past, the concern talked about the reporting being done and accounting being done in dollars. That's the situation as of today. You keep referring to the foreign exchange trends for the dollar, and I want to ask if you have made plans to shift over to euros. No comment on that, I'm sorry. Any other questions? Good morning, Monita Borkowska, Intela. I'd like to ask you about the B4 and B6 deposits. By the end of the year, you were supposed to make the decision, but you have delayed so much that I was actually able to change my jobs 2 times. How would you address this issue today based on the analyses that you have? What decision can actually be sent to be made by the end of the year? Maybe you will end your analysis in that part of the world and in that domain. I don't want to address the part when you talk about changing your jobs and the speed of life. We are taking a responsible approach to answering your question and making the decision. The decision is mutual. It has to include the say of our investors. We will try to make this decision in December.
Zagospodarowania czy też zbudowania też części logistycznej tego projektu, która musi przez pewne tereny przechodzić. Pozostaje również element samego rachunku ekonomicznego oraz
we have to also look at the accounting side and the selection of contractors. We are now involved in a decision-making process. We are discussing the situation. We are analyzing the condition of the market, and we want to be responsible in making this decision so that the B4, B6 gets continued and has long-term impact on our EBITDA. We understand how big this deposit is, and we understand that it will be economically justified. We had to look at the whole situation. We need to examine the added value coming from the Baltic Sea. We also have to look at the legislation of Poland and the differences between, let's say, Poland and Norway. We are therefore slowly approaching the end of the decision-making process. It is a huge decision, and we want to take a responsible approach to it.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? Mr. Editor?
Jeszcze raz to może zapytam o temat,
Once more.
a mianowicie fuzję z Orlenem. To kiedy państwo...
I would like to ask you about the fusion with Orlen,
Procedury składania dodatkowych
about the merger with Orlen.
informacji do Komisji Europejskiej jest jakaś współpraca, dostarczyć jakieś teraz dokumenty dla Orlenu. Dziękuję.
Are there any cooperation? Will you give any documents to Orlen? Thank you. I would like to give it in a nutshell.
W naszym udziale zostało też zawarte porozumienie między Skarbem Państwa a PKN Orlen. Są też
We made some agreement with the state and Orlen.
jest nam znana. Prowadzone są
We
dwa
know
procesy.
the agreement. There are two processes.
Niedawno się zakończył, o czym też
One of them has already finished. We also we also presented it in the results. It was the due diligence process. According to the press information, as you
widzą i czytają, ale też uczestniczą w
know and
PKN Orlen prowadzi dyskusję z Komisją Europejską na
follow it,
strukturę transakcji i środków zaradczych. Terminy
Orlen is
podawane są
discussing this process with the European Union.
jest koniec stycznia jako moment na decyzję. Wiemy też o tym,
We
że
know that the deadline for the decision is
stop the clock, która
January. There is also a procedure stop the clock launched.
jeszcze głębsze przeanalizowanie sytuacji.
Thanks to it, we can
Zadał też pan pytanie, czy
think it
pokazujemy
over
Polskę
very
jako
seriously.
Przedmiot przejęcia, ale też ważny gracz rynkowy, jesteśmy w ten proces zaangażowani.
We are involved in the process of big players on the market.
Wpływ na sposób budowania
It will impact
zaradczych, czy też budowę wiedzy o rynku,
building the
będzie wykorzystana
market,
do zbudowania środków zaradczych.
and we will have accordingly good knowledge for using it in the equipment. Thank you very much. Next question.
Może jeszcze jedno pytanie zadam, ale jakoś może inaczej je sformułuję, bo wiem, że już panowie o dywidendzie nie chcieli nic mówić.
Maybe I will
Zapytam może tak,
shape this
dlatego
question
panowie nic nie chcą
differently.
mówić o dywidendzie, że to zależy
You
od
don't want to
wyników
talk about dividend.
z
Why?
fuzji,
Because
od fuzji
it
z Orlenem, tak?
is
No bo Orlen
impacted
pewnie chciał, wolałby nas
by the
przyjąć z
merger
gotówką,
with
jak nie będzie,
Orlen.
Jak się coś nie uda, to pewnie gotówkę będzie można jakoś tam do akcjonariuszy rozdystrybuować.
It's because of the cash which possibly could be distributed to the shareholders,
Myśmy
or it is about the profit in the
zdolność
dividend.
tą zdolność mamy.
In our strategy, we prove that our dividend is on a good level.
Które są zgodne z obecną sytuacją, czy z
We
sytuacją
publish
poza
dividend
w danym momencie. Także w tej chwili
annually.
dywidendy za ten rok nie możemy komentować.
So actually we can't comment on dividend for this year, but if you want to know if it is obvious that the
Dziękuję bardzo.
company owning the
jakieś pytania?
facility will impact the
W
dividend
takim razie
level.
bardzo serdecznie
Are there any
dziękujemy.
questions?
Drodzy państwo,
No,
tak jak
thank you
powiedziałem,
very much.
oczywiście
Then,
możliwe są
as I
rozmowy w
said,
kuluarach.
you
Bardzo
can
serdecznie
also
dziękujemy
talk to
panu
us
redaktorom, ludziom mediów.
out
Bardzo
of the
dziękuję
conference.
panu
Thank you
prezesowi Mateuszowi
for
Dawidowi
your
Bąca, panu prezesowi Jarosławowi Kawuli, Wojtkowi Zęklerowi,
presentation.
Biura
Thank you,
Relacji
Mr.
Inwestorskich
President
i
Bonsa,
Wygodności.
Mr.
Również
Kavula,
państwu
and Mr.
dziękujemy. Zapraszamy na kawę,
Zenkler.
herbatę i oczywiście na
I
rozmowy w
invite you
kuluarach.
for a